March 4th kicks off a brand new season with Agamotto. Is he the magic your deck needs? I'll give a final review of Sam Wilson Captain America, share theory crafted decks for each series, and preview the exciting new cards this month. So Sam Wilson Captain America ended up being a good card. I think that's what I said in my original preview, that he would be a good card, but ultimately passable.
No, he didn't.
I might be dead wrong on this, but I don't think this is a great card in any capacity. So I still have not purchased the season pass, and I won't be getting the season pass still. So, like I said, he is strong in certain decks. There's the ongoing decks that he's in. There are the Doom 2099 decks, which are also a flavor of ongoing. There's the Scar Surtur decks that sometimes you'll find him in. So there's some flexibility in there. Ultimately, he's a strong card overall, but I still can't shake the feeling that in the next month or two, you'll just be seeing less and less of him. And I still don't think he has the staying power that a lot of the other season pass cards do. I could very well be wrong. I've been wrong before. With Hawkeye Kate Bishop, I was definitely wrong with her. But overall, the decks I've seen him in don't strike me as being super powerful and or interesting. So I'll just wait until Sam Wilson Captain America is available in a Spotlight Cash or something, and then maybe I'll get him. But otherwise, I am content to pass on him for now, even though there will be people in the comments telling me that I am wrong to pass on him. Now on to the season pass. If you opt not to purchase the season pass, then you will mostly just be getting credits and some gold, a card back, which I think looks pretty nice, a mystery variant, and a title that nobody cares about. Did I forget some boosters? Of course, everybody forgets boosters. So this is what you will be getting as part of the free package. As for the paid package, you will be getting some of the cosmetics in addition to other items, of course, but these cosmetics that you're seeing right now, my view on them is they're okay. I guess if you like that BC style, I'm not particularly a fan of it. You do get a green cosmic border, I think that's what that is, and an additional card back. Overall, you know, if you value cosmetics, fine. If you don't, then it doesn't add much to it, but that's what you get if you decide to pay, along with getting Agamotto, of course. So whether you think Agamotto is going to be good or bad, he's pretty unique, kind of. So there's a mash of Thanos in here and Nico's spells in here, all kind of rolled up into one. He does ultimately make your deck bigger. Some of his spells draw cards, or one of them does. So it's really confusing to predict how good this card is actually going to be in practice, despite its uniqueness. So he is a 5 cost, 10 power. So there's also some synergy there with certain decks. The Scar Surtur deck, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross if you decided to get him like me. And otherwise, let's just start talking about these spells that he shuffles into your deck. So this spell is a 1/0, all the spells are 0, so I won't keep repeating that. And all the spells get banished, which means there's no way to trigger them more than once. Wong ultimately is there. That's the only way I think you could trigger these multiple times is through Wong. I don't know if that makes sense, though, as far as reality goes. But anyway, Temporal Manipulation is 1 cost and draws Agamotto. I don't know what to think of this deck exactly. It's kind of a 1/3, but it forces you to play Agamotto if you want that 1/3 value. Also, it has deck thinning if Agamotto is in your deck. If you have him in your hand, it doesn't help in that regard. So I think this is probably the weakest of the bunch, but that's why it's also 1 cost. So let's move on to the next spell. Winds of Watumb is the second spell, and it's a 2 cost. And technically, kind of, it's a 2/5 because it afflicts a card on your opponent's side with -5. That can be undone with Luke Cage ultimately. So it could just be a 2/0 and you just wasted 2 energy completely. So you got to think about that. It does move a card to the right, your opponent's card, which can have some game-winning utility there, depending on the location you slide it into. Moving to the right is also somewhat unique. I think Aranya is the only one that can do that right now. So overall, this is a 2/5 that sits on your opponent's side. That can have some uses depending on the type of deck, which means Agamotto may find a home in a bunch of different types of decks because this naturally fits into Affliction. And let's move on to the next spell. Now we're getting into the somewhat more powerful spells, 3 cost, and you get +4 energy next turn. So if you're thinking about this, I don't know how strong this spell is, honestly. I said they were getting stronger. This might end up being the weakest spell because you're only netting 1 energy. You're spending 3 for a 0 power. So you're not getting any power. You're spending 3 energy. So you could have spent that 3 energy to get actual power. So instead, you're spending 3 energy to be able to spend it on the next turn. So of course, that can enable ramp. I'm not dismissing that. But you are only netting +1 energy. So this is the most curious one to me in how good this ends up being. Again, it enables ramp, but for some decks you won't care about that. For some decks, of course, you do. So this is just going to depend on the synergies Agamotto has with the specific deck that you put him in. And it might take a little bit of time to really refine and figure out where all of these spells have this immense amount of utility. Maybe this just ends up being a good cards deck card, where it just naturally, whatever spell you get, you can kind of take advantage of. Nico's that same way. She was kind of hard to see her value before she came out. When she did, people saw, oh, you can actually use these spells in a bunch of different ways. So for me, this Bolts of Balfok,
What did you say?
is the spell that probably has the most question in my mind at how useful it's going to be. But again, it probably depends on the type of deck you're using Agamotto in. Now, this spell, unquestionably, is the most powerful in my mind. Because not only are you turning it into the highest power card that's in that lane, you have such a surprise factor of whether this is actually going to happen if this card ends up being your turn 6 play. And boy, this is going to have some fantastic highlights, some fantastic finishes, and I really see this as being the most powerful spell out of the bunch. That is why it is 4 cost. Make sure you don't play it into a Cosmo lane. So, but this spell I'm really excited for. The theory crafted decks that you'll see, I really had this spell in mind because Marvel Snap is about winning cubes. It's not about winning games. And this spell right here is a cube winner, a significant cube winner, where you can snap pretty confidently and have some completely unexpected plays. For the Series 2 Theory Crafted deck, I went with a more on-reveal style deck. And so I have Sunspot in here because maybe if you have that bonus energy from one of Agamotto's spells, you can use that to just soak and you don't lose any of that value. On a last turn, being able to multiply a warpath. You have Nightcrawler in a different lane, so it can't get Shang-Chi'd, and then on the last turn, you can move that Nightcrawler away, play down that one spell from Agamotto, and now you have 30 power magically in a lane. You go from 5 to 30. Fantastic, because you have, Iceman or Sunspot or Uatu in here. I love Uatu, so I'm throwing him in here because for that specific spell, you need other cards to turn into that highest power card. And Uatu is just a fun card to use, especially if you're in the early series. Odin can double up a Spider-Woman effect, a Medusa effect, Star-Lord, Shang-Chi. I mean, he's in all my decks. For Series 3, I have access to Adam Warlock. So, Agamotto adds cards to my deck. I don't like that, so being able to draw additional cards out of your deck is also fantastic. Being able to, on a last turn, do a Dagger and a Ghost Spider, or actually on turn 5, you do Dagger, and then on turn 6, you can do a Ghost Spider, and then that Images of Whatever Agamotto spell to duplicate a bunch of your cards in a single lane, depending on what's there. Shang-Chi, of course. Enchantress is here just as tech. We have Zabu, who is freshly in Series 3. And there's Groot, She-Hulk. Overall, some good cards you don't mind doubling or tripling with Agamotto's spell. That's why Jessica Jones is here also. And this is the Series 3 version.
These decks stink.
Now, there are going to be a ton of different Agamotto decks you're going to see. I'm convinced of that. So I went really wacky. I love Galactus, so let's put him in here. We have Galacta, his daughter. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross can pull Red Hulk and Agamotto out of your deck. Adam Warlock can pull cards out of your deck. Lasher, that leans into more Affliction as well. So with Agamotto's spell, you also have that Affliction, and being able to play down Lasher, negatively afflict with Lasher, play down Agamotto's spell, move that card to a different lane. Now you can Galactus because that card is just beat down severely. Zabu, of course, discounts our 4-cost cards. Agony, again, helps out Lasher, helps out some of your other cards. You can go the Galacta, Symbiote Spider-Man, Galactus route if you want. There are just a number of different avenues you could take with this deck. And who knows if this is going to be good, but this is where my mind went as far as being unique, which is what this channel is all about. Now, other Agamotto decks, I think he may even go into something like a Thanos. He could definitely go into something like Arishem. People already play Thanos and Arishem, which is a large deck. So you can play Arishem and Agamotto together and get him down on turn 4 earlier with that bonus energy. So there's going to be a lot of decks that spawn from Agamotto, and it's going to be fun to see. Here are the new cards this month. In addition to the Season Pass and Agamotto, we have Isan, Starbrand, Firehair, what a name.
My hair is on fire! My hair is on fire!
And Khonshu. If anything is true about this season, it's that there are some unique cards this month. Whether they are going to be good or bad, they are pretty unique in my mind. To touch on each briefly, Isan probably goes in a more shield type deck, cards that generate other cards. Starbrand is very much a Scar Surtur type card, and also a Shuri Sauron type card, Sauron decks. Firehair, who in the world knows? That's going to be fascinating. I won't have a clue on her until I start theory crafting decks. And then Khonshu is very interesting and might spawn a totally new type of discard deck. So I will be covering each of these individually in their own videos when each of their Spotlight Cash weeks are coming up. So will Nerd Dynamite be getting Agamotto after passing up the last season pass? Can I do 2 in a row? I could, but I won't now. Agamotto is super interesting to me, and I think he's one of the most unique, at least from my vantage point, one of the most unique cards that they've released as far as the cost and strength, as far as the 4 spells, and as far as what the spells do, and putting that all in a singular package. So I have to get my hands on this card. I have to see if my theory crafted decks are any good, which, by the way, I am recording this before a recent OTA, so maybe the OTA killed one of my theory crafted decks. But I really want to get my hands on this card just because it's so unique, and hopefully I can get a couple, 2, 3, 4 videos out of them, because there are wildly different styles that you could play him in, and hopefully I'm able to create some unique decks with him, and I'm really looking forward to experimenting with Agamotto. Thanks to everybody that's reached this deep into the video, and of course, thanks to the members of the channel, which are, I think I'm supposed to be pointing that way. And I appreciate everybody that helps the channel grow. Let me know what you think of Agamotto. Are you planning to get him? There are a lot of people that do not get the season pass. Don't despair. I will never forget you all, and I will keep creating decks that do not include the newest cards, as my regulars know. And until next time.